Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 3X Value Growth Podcast. My name is Carrie Sauls. I am an exit planner and value growth advisor at Value Growth Results. I'm also the best-selling author of the book, 3 Steps to Multiply the Value of Your Business. I'm all about helping mid-market companies multiply the value that they have in their business internally before they're faced with any transition, transaction, or other choices they want for growth. The 3X Value Growth Podcast is a forum to hear from advisors with the expertise and resources that you need now to ensure that lower middle market enterprises can reach their full potential. Tune in to hear from experts who generously share their expertise to help owners crack the code on multiplying the value of their business in any economy. I'm coming to you today from New Hampshire as usual, and today I wanted to tell you a little bit about Mount Washington. Mount Washington is the highest peak on the east coast of the United States. It's over 5,000 feet. It's also the highest peak, obviously, in the state of New Hampshire. What you may not know is that the weather station on Mount Washington has recorded some of the coldest temperatures and strongest winds ever in the continental United States. So it's a very distinctive place. If you can take the cog rail up there, you can drive up there, or like me, you can hike up there. But if you do hike, even in summer, you want to go with winter gear because there'll still be snow. In any case, I'm joined today by Norm Wolfe. Norman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. It's nice to be here.
Tell me, where are you calling in from?
I am from Portland, Oregon. Actually, I live in Vancouver, Washington, not to be confused with Vancouver, BC, and we're just across the river from Portland.
And how's the weather there?
Well, for this time of year, it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm looking out my office window and I'm seeing blue skies with lovely white puffy clouds, hawks flying overhead. It's just a magnificent day.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds more like spring than the beginning of March.
Yeah, it does. But, with changing weather patterns we're having, who knows when spring starts or when winter ends anymore. Right?
Exactly. Well, for those of you who don't know Norman, let me give you a little bit of background about who he is. Norman Wolfe is the founder and CEO of Quantum Leaders, a leading voice in bringing about the transformation of the core paradigm of business. He's a 15-year veteran of Hewlett-Packard. He's led and consulted with companies large and small, and he's the author of The Living Organization, an application of the core principles of how the world works and how organizations can create extraordinary impact. So welcome again, Norman. Are you ready to do our 7 questions in 7 minutes on the topic of growing your company from a new paradigm?
I think I am. That's a challenge for me, but we'll get it done.
We'll get it done. Exactly. Good answer. So my first question for you is, who's your ideal client?
Very much like yours, they're the mid-market companies, leaders of any organization that size, not-for-profit, public companies or private companies.
And number 2 for you, Norman, is what problem are you trying to solve for these middle market companies?
For the last 4 decades, the statistics show that the execution of strategic initiatives fail at a rate of 70%. Over that same period of time, we know that the level of employee engagement is below 25%. So we really have about a 70% failure rate on the 2 things that really matter to being successful. And I got real curious about why that is and developed what I call a new paradigm, as you pointed out in my introduction, of how we can convert that 70% failure, both in execution and employee engagement, to 70% success.
Great. So my third question is, what are the typical symptoms that you're seeing of this problem that you see owners experiencing or that they end up talking about?
Well, most owners, every owner I know about has typically 3 major concerns that they focus on. One is, how do I generate more business? How do I increase my revenue? How do I make my organization more efficient so I'm using less resources? And the third one is, how do I innovate? How do I create more products, more interest, more keep more current on what clients need, and so forth. So these three things of generating revenue, efficiency, and innovation are really the top of mind issues. And like I said, most people are not as successful as they'd like. Either it takes longer than they want, they're not getting the efficiencies they want, they're not being as innovative as they want. And a lot of it really, when you boil that down to the next level, it comes down to those darn people. They just don't do what I say. And a lot of that has to do with the fail of the way we look at what an organization is.
Whew. That's a heavy load right there. So when owners try to tackle this on their own, because obviously if they're thinking about it, they're thinking, what can I do to answer it? So my fourth question is, what are the most common mistakes you see them making?
Well, I often hesitate to use the word mistakes because what they're doing is what they've been trained to do. Shifting the paradigm is really an awkward, uncomfortable thing for people to do. You're in ski country, so you'll understand this, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will. When you first learn to ski, you're asked to lean downhill, right? Now, that goes against everything we are taught as how to be safe when we're coming down a hill, right? And it has to do with, because there's another way of looking of the forces that are at play that make us safe when we're on skis. And when we lean downhill on skis, we actually go a lot faster than we can walk or run down the hill. Well, it's the same paradigm shift that leaders need to do. So one of the things they're doing that's a big mistake is they think of their organizations like a machine, which in turn makes them think in terms of people as cogs of the machine, not consciously or not intentionally. It's just the way we're taught to think and how we manage the organization. And on top of that, it makes the leader completely responsible, which is really a burden. Most of the leaders I've worked with feel this burden in one form or another. They're responsible for designing the machine. They have to figure everything out and then tell the machine, i.e. the people, what they're supposed to do. Again, in one form or another. Leaders would love to be able to change that. But to change that, you have to really lean downhill. You got to stop leaning uphill. And that requires a whole new way of thinking. The living organization model explains what that new way of thinking is. So I'll stop there and let you go to the next question.
So with that framework around it, what is one valuable free action that you can recommend to our listeners that they can implement on their own, facing all of this, that will turn things around to increase value for their business?
Pay more attention to what is often called the culture of the organization. I call it the context. Way to think about that again, and even before that, think of your organization as if it was a living being, as if you were raising a child, not managing a machine of production. Think about the interactions you have with the organization as a whole in terms of how you would interact with family members. If you kind of have that framework going in, you'll look at things like the quality of communications, the quality of relationships. You'll look at things like, what do we stand for? Who are we being while we're doing what we're doing, right? And if you start that shift, which you can do on your own, all you have to do is start thinking that way, you'll really start to see different solutions to the challenges you're facing. You'll begin to understand some of the deeper underlying dynamics that prevent the employees from actually working and committing and contributing. If you tell people what to do, they feel like a victim, if you will, in effect of or under control of you. If you empower employees by giving them a sense of choice, inviting them in to begin to work with you, to do what they love, and finding that right match, you'll have a whole different energy feel and a lot more energy being applied. You'll end up doing a lot more with less, just like skiing. If you lean downhill, if you follow this new paradigm, You'll slide down the slope of your challenges a whole lot easier than if you keep trying to fight it with the muscles.
Well, you've just given us a goldmine of what people can actually implement on their own if they'll just give it a shot. So what, on the flip side, what's one free resource that you can offer that would be of value to these same owners?
I have made available to your audience a free, the first 3 chapters of my book for free. You just go to our website, www.quantumleaders, that's with an S.com, /podcast, and they'll have access to the first 3 chapters. And if they're intrigued, they obviously can go read the whole book. But the first 3 chapters capture the essence of this paradigm shift.
That's great. That's a great resource to offer people. Thank you. And my last question, Norman, is with all of your experience, and I just wanted to turn around and ask you, what's one question I should have asked and didn't, and what would be the answer?
I think most leaders really question, is it really possible to lead in a different way? And I would point to a couple of companies that are beginning to show amazing results by following this kind of new approach of thinking of the organization as a living being. One company is a company in the Netherlands. The company's name is Buurtzorg. It's Buurtzorg. It's a nursing company. To give you an example, there is only one manager in the whole organization. They have 7,000 nurses in 10 to 12 person self-managing teams. And they are more efficient. Their overhead is like 8%. The industry standard is like 28%. I mean, it's amazing the results they're getting. Another company is a company called Decurion. They're based out of Los Angeles. They started off owning a lot of the movie theaters. They have branched out into senior living homes and commercial development. Their performance outstrips everybody else. Their employee engagement is up like 80%. I mean, it's phenomenal what they've been able to accomplish. So I just recommend those resources.
So you just gave us proof that shifting into this paradigm is not only good for the people, but very good for the bottom line.
I'd like to say it's a way, like skiing, it's a way to get down the hill with a whole lot less effort. You get a lot more done with a lot less resources. And the nice thing is for leaders, once they learn this, they breathe easier. It takes the burden off of them.
Thank you so much for joining me here on the 3X Value Growth Podcast, Norman. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The mission we set for the 3X Value Growth Podcast is to make critical information available to owners of private businesses that will help them easily multiply the value of their business. The 3X Value Growth system we offer leverages our proprietary analytics, platform, and client portal to address quantitative, performance excellence, and risk factors to increase EBITDA. To learn how you can multiply the value of your business threefold in just 3 years, check out 3xvaluegrowth.com/model for a free PDF. You'll be invited to attend our next demo of the 3X Value Growth Program on a free monthly webinar of what works in the lower middle market. Thanks for checking out our 3X Value Growth Podcast. If you like what we're doing here, head on over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe. Leave us a review or rate us. It's very much appreciated.